Alan Wake's 2 seemingly dire sales don't paint the full picture. In true Alan Wake style, the story is murky. Earlier today, we reported on Sakana's monthly U.S. game sales report, which has Hogwarts Legacy and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 in a neck-and-neck battle for annual bestseller. A few other new games, such as Super Mario RPG, made their debuts in the top 20 as well last month. But a quick glance over the charts for November reveals a conspicuous missing entry. Where's Alan Wake 2? Did it really not sell well enough to break into the top 20? Should we all start panicking about Remedy now? Speaking to IGN, Sakana analyst Matt Piscatella explains why Alan Wake 2 didn't debut in the top 20 of Sakana's sales charts this month. It's largely an issue of data reporting. Sakana doesn't have data on every single sale for every single game. They can collect data from physical retailers and select digital data from publishers and storefronts who choose to supply it. As a result, while Sakana's data is extremely useful, in many cases it's incomplete. The best examples of this are Nintendo, which does not provide digital sales to Sakana at all, and Take Two, which used to provide data but limited its input a few years ago. That's why you never see GTA 5 in the Sakana charts, despite it setting a solid 5 million copies per quarter worldwide. In Alan Wake's 2 case, there was no physical release, and its publisher Epic Games does not provide digital sales data to Sakana, so there's just no way for Sakana to tell us how well it sold. Piscatella did confirm that Alan Wake 2 ranked 147th on Xbox Series and 115th on PlayStation 5 in MAUs in November, but that doesn't tell us too much. We can supplement that with a bit more data from Ampere analyst Piers Harding Walls, though, to get a clearer picture. Ampere estimates that globally, just on console, Alan Wake 2 sold 850,000 copies as of the end of November. It's a bit tricky to tell given the limitations of both these data sets, but if you feel like that seems like a touch low for a major AAA game that was widely anticipated and is reviewing phenomenally, well, it is, and it isn't. Remedy's last offering, Control, sold 2 million units in the first year. You could argue that Control is doing better because of its physical release, but in that same period, Remedy reported that only 10% of the game sales were digital. So physical wasn't doing a ton of heavy lifting in the first place, and Alan Wake 2 skipping the expensive process of a physical edition entirely could have saved Remedy more money than it would have made. So is Alan Wake 2 really selling poorly? It's still hard to say even with these pieces of data. 850,000 copies on console, sans PC isn't bad. And if you assume that even just a few 100,000 PC players, sales could be within reach of Control's 1 year milestone. Still, Control was a new IP where Alan Wake is supposedly a beloved cult classic, riding on Control's stellar coattails. It would make sense for Remedy to have higher hopes for its success. But as with Control, perhaps word of mouth over the next year will keep Alan Wake 2 in the zeitgeist longer than most games and make it a sales success. We asked Remedy for comment, but the studio has yet to respond. So, what do you think of sales? Do you really think it's incomplete data, or do you think it's something else?
Alan Wake 2 just started to release like about at least a month ago, right? So
Yeah,
it's still more. Of course, you want the initial sales to be at least a good 500,000, maybe at best, maybe 3/4 of a million of copies in 1 or 2 weeks, like that of that with Shenmue and GTA and other games out there for the last how many decades so far. But Alan Wake 2 was a lackluster, partially speaking, being that based on the game and what I found about the game overall from like listen to other people on YouTube and all, they're saying that, well, just from one YouTuber, they say that like, oh, it's I don't think it's in the game obviously, but they focus too much on the black female police officer too much. That's why it wasn't as received greatly by other fans of the Alan Wake franchise or Alan Wake cult fans. So that's why it wasn't as successful as the first Alan Wake. Well, I'm sure over time, for the next several weeks, months, maybe it will maintain sales overall, but it won't be as big as the first Alan Wake game, or even American Nightmare. So,
yeah. I agree. But the thing is, also, not only is Alan Wake 2 not selling physically, which is hurting sales, which honestly I'm a little glad to see, as selfish as it may be. Um, it's people are also, this is kind of the game that people are saying, uh, do we move into an all digital future now, or can we hold it off? Alan Wake 2 is that kind of, unfortunately, Alan Wake 2 is that kind of game when it didn't get a physical release. So it's kind of like people are digging their heels in, maybe not because of anything to do with the game per se, content wise, but they don't want to support it because it's moving. Because if they support it, they're supporting an all digital future, which people don't want. Gaming Off the Grid even said they're boycotting Alan Wake 2. They're not going to play it because they don't want to buy it digitally. They said if it ever comes out physically, we'll buy it, but we're not going to support it digitally.
Oh, yeah.
So that's another story, and that's the thing that I wanted to bring up that we were talking about before. Games moving into an all digital future. It's like I said, I disagree with Review Tech USA or anyone else who says that it's already here. No, it's not yet. But like if Alan Wake 2 was selling like gangbusters, um, all digitally, um, then we would be moving towards an all digital future. We're not there yet, and I think Alan Wake 2 is gonna sell less than the other games. And now thing is, everyone wants to see out what Alan Wake goes through. I mean, no one cares about the supporting cast. If he has a supporting cast, fine. He had a supporting cast of a couple characters in American Nightmare, but the
Yeah.
focus was still on Alan Wake and Mr. Scratch, Alan Wake's doppelganger, who was the antagonist. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the first Alan Wake had people there too. He had the cop that started to believe him. He had his agent. He had the guys who owned that old farm. He had um, I think there was like a doctor in the mental institution that Alan Wake was sent to. Um, so it's a fun. So it's but yeah, I didn't know that the black woman had a bigger story arc or just as big as Alan Wake 2, which is also a mistake. They should have saved her story for like DLC or something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at, People want to see more Alan Wake. They give them Alan Wake and give them a option to buy it physically. That's but yeah. So the whole reason I wanted to cover this was because, like I said, whether or not we were moving into an all digital future 5 months from now or 5 years from now, most people were making this game, saying if this game sells well, all digital, then then it's going to happen sooner than later. Honestly, I think enough people woke up and said we're not supporting it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm kind of glad that for a AAA game, it's not selling. Um, maybe a year or two now they'll release the game physically, and then all those people who held out can buy it physically,
Oh, yeah.
even if the disc is just a coaster. Um, but yeah, so I think that's the story behind the low sales.
Oh, definitely. That's a
So
factor where if you're not selling physically, people will be like, okay, I'm not buying it at all, pretty much after that. So,
right. So yeah, so I think that's another thing working against Alan Wake 2's future, or Alan Wake 2's sales. Um, it's just not performing well, and honestly, like I said, if it releases physically, most of those people that are holding out on buying this game would buy it then.
and or if they include more Alan Wake in the game itself with Alan Wake 2, that'd be great because they focus more so much on the black woman. That's what people say, and then the gameplay of it. So,
Yeah, I mean, come on, yeah, Alan Wake is the story. I mean, if you wanted the Black Woman and Alan Wake to be in the same adventure and to be like partners with each other, that's fine. But you, with a game titled Alan Wake, you gotta focus on Alan Wake's adventure. I mean,
yeah. I'll call it the Alan Wake 2 Alan Wake and Friends. It sounds sketchy. Sounds like a fucking fucking Barney adventures, but whatever.
yeah, but I mean, like I said, most people that were buying this game were buying it because of the Alan Wake name. Until it broke that Alan Wake 2 was going to be digital only. So you focus on Alan Wake 2. Like I said, the black woman cop woman could have been the supporting cast. She could have been, or have her just an Alan Wake story. Have her be I don't know if they still have Alan Wake's agent, Barry. But if he's not in the game, have her, be basically around Alan Wake the whole time as he's going through his next adventure. Or it's ridiculous that they tried to focus on someone else when they were trying to sell the game based on Alan Wake.
Yeah, I don't understand that move on their part as those game makers. I think it's because the fact that they want to try to expand the audience, which is a very risky move on their part. Because Alan Wake is surrounded by Alan Wake's dilemma. Alan Wake's is man versus himself dilemma, in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, his
So
own creations basically coming back, and you know what? That was a great story in its own. People just wanted another story that they could play through Alan Wake. In. I mean, what's so complicated to understand about that?
and we're doing that with the race swap and the many characters and many IPs over the last several years now. From Invincible comic books and now into TV shows to Star Wars, from the movies into the TV shows, so on and so forth. Now it's Alan Wake's turn.
Yeah, while way swapping is a little bit different, they just tried to put the focus on someone who's not Alan Wake, and
Yeah,